Welcome back, everybody. We're on episode 51, I think it is, of the Steel Target Paint podcast. I'm Jeff Jones.
And I'm Steve Foster. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Steve. It's a wonderful day. Looking forward to talking to you about all things shooting and steel and anything else we feel like sharing with our listeners. How about you?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really interested to hear how your weekend went. You did something crazy this weekend, huh?
Yeah, I went and excuse me, I shot the Nationals, the PCC Nationals over in Frostproof, Florida. Had an absolute great time. Shot on RO day. So after RO day, I was 12th. But I knew that wasn't going to hold very long.
Did you screen capture that and put it up on your board?
No, I did not. That is not what I do.
Wow, I was looking through the results because, of course, we know a lot of people that went to that match, and wow, that was one stacked field. There was, 248 shooters somewhere in there.
Close to 270, I think.
Is that right? It
Yeah.
was. Boy, there was a lot of people that are serious shooters that were there, so that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, you just look down. I just pulled up the results here, and you just run down the list of the top 10, and you're easily going to recognize 7 of them.
Sure.
You got Max, Josh Froelich, that's Max Leangrandis, Josh Froelich, Zach Smith, Andre DeSautel, Shannon Smith, Tim Yackley, Scott Green, Lena Michalik, Justine Williams, and Duncan Klein. Those are the top 10.
Right.
And there's a who's who of shooters in that list. And to think that Justine, Lena won the Women's National Championship again and beat Justine by 11 points.
Just 11. That's crazy.
Just 11 points. And Justine is a junior shooter.
How old is she, Jeff? Is she 16?
I don't know. She and her sister, of course, were squatted together, and they came through on day one, and I ran them. And I don't know how old they are, but, being juniors, they're at most 17. Well, Justine. I don't think Jalise is. I think Jalise may be older.
Sure.
But then you get down into the next 10, and there's still a lot of big names. Keith Garcia was 11th. Todd Jarrett, who also won the senior title, was 12th. Hwansik Kim, whose first PCC match ever, and as an unclassified shooter, comes in 13th.
That's crazy. And where did Grant Kunkel finish up? Was he 14th?
What a lead-in. He was 14th. I was going to say a name near and dear to all our hearts. Grant Kunkel came in 14th. So that was quite amazing. He's one heck of a shooter. Riley Croft, 15th. Tony Martin, 16th. Ethan Inacondo, 17th. Matt Kalish, 18th. Ian Myers, and then Bruce Taylor rounded out the top 20. And you go down that list, and there's a lot of people in that list that also shoot steel.
Yeah. I was talking to my man Ethan the other day, and I said, man, how'd the match go? He said, it was great for 10 out of 12 stages. And I said, what happened? He said, 65-yard swinger. Sorry, Ethan, I'm not outing your brother, but, man, I watched some of his match video. He was rocking it. Oh,
I tell
unbelievable.
You, the 65-yard, that stage, so you started standing, and you had about a 50-yard shot on 3 open targets. And then you had 3 targets that were maybe at, 15 yards you could take on the move. And then you had to run about, maybe 20 yards to get to a position to pick up another 2 targets and then spin back and get 1. And then you had to probably run another 10 or 15 yards to get your last position, where there were 3 steel at about 20 yards, 3 paper that were close by, and then a 60-yard large popper activating a swinger at 60 yards. I think there was another piece of paper down there too. And when I was all done, I took 4 shots at the swinger and got all my hits. I wasn't fast, but I got all my hits, which was what I was going for. So I was pretty pleased with myself. But yeah, there was some crazy fast times, even on that stage. If I look here quick, let's see, we'll go to, that was stage 12, the wonders of practice score. If we go to stage.
And on that swinger, Jeff, while you were looking, you only had to put 2 on the paper, correct?
That is correct. I took 4 to make sure I was hopefully getting 2. And as it turns out, I hit it 3 times.
Hey,
so
what's wrong with that?
Stage 12, the 65-yard shots, Grant Kunkel was number 1.
Really?
He
I didn't
ran
mean
that
to
thing.
sound so surprised. Sorry, Grant.
He ran that in 28.67 seconds, clean. 22 alphas and 10 Charlies.
Wow. That's awesome.
So it was, I mean, and there were 5 people that ran in under 30 seconds. Everybody else was over 30 seconds.
Dang.
Oh, I take that back. Sorry, Josh Froelich, you were down there, ran it in 26:51, but he had 3 mics. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. There were those long targets. Most outside of that stage, most of the targets were right in that 7 yards to 30-yard range. Variations of steel. There was one stage where you hit a popper that activated a swinger that was behind a metal barrier, and it was only the shoulders of the swinger and up. It was a head target and only the shoulders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was funny because I remember that one specifically because I was lucky when I was shooting it. I'm one of the old guys with bad eyes, but the sun was right and you could actually see the holes through the paper. So my first shot was an alpha, and my next shot I couldn't see. My next shot I couldn't see, and my fourth shot was an alpha, and or a Charlie. I hit it, and turns out those other 2 shots were in the alpha zone. It was just in the blacked out portion of the alpha zone, which is considered hardcover. So, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of good people there. Had a blast. Got to see Mike Foley and Jake Martins and Troy, and was hoping to rub elbows with the people from JP, but their guns were there, but they didn't make it there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the price table was pretty darn good.
I was pleased, I mean, final tally in the match, there were, get to the end, 247 entries. So you were closer to being correct than I was. Not the first time.
Won't be the last either.
And I came in 103rd, and I walked away with a $150 JP gift certificate, which was right in line with what my future plans for my next gun are. So I was very pleased with that.
Oh, that's cool. Let me ask you this in terms of the format. Were they half-day sessions? Did I hear that correctly? Or
yes. Not? So the match was 12 stages. And so on Friday morning, on Thursday and Friday, the RO shot. And we actually shot 8 and 4 only because there was rain coming predicted for Friday, so we wanted to get it done. But for the main match, you shot 6 stages on Saturday, say in the morning, and then you came back in the afternoon and shot the other 6 stages.
Oh, wow.
And then the reverse happened. If you shot 6 stages in the afternoon on Saturday, you came back and shot the other 6 on Sunday morning. But it was hot. It was Florida. But nobody passed out, so that was good.
Yeah, that is a good thing. Jeez.
Well, now that we talked about that last match, which was my last big match, let's talk about your last big match, which was the Area 5 Steel Challenge. How did that go?
Do we have to talk about it, Jeff?
Well, it's, you know what? We owe it to our listeners, Steve. We owe it to our listeners.
All right, we'll do it for the listeners. It was interesting because I've never shot a major match in Indiana before, so it was cool. You know, my daughter wanted to go and see some of her friends, Bailey and Caitlin were up there, so that was worth the trip itself. The other cool part is traveling to a location like that I've never shot at. Is there's so many people that you meet online. It was great to meet a lot of these folks face to face, and it was, I don't know, it's kind of like a family reunion. You know, Kurt and Maria Grimes came over, and we talked a little bit last time about the Steel Target Paint team getting together. I think there was probably 10 of us there, which was a great representation for the middle of the country because we don't have a lot of shooters in that area. We've got Kurt and Maria on the West Coast, and then we got a lot of folks in the Southeast. Ben was there from Kansas, and yeah, so that part was really cool. But I think the most interesting part to me, or takeaway from the match, was getting to meet all these people.
Yeah, it's always
nice.
fun to put a name to a face in person than just on Facebook.
Yeah, Steve and Jan, they're fantastic folks. And man, the other really cool part that I found is that Chet with CWA was there with Seth Fox, which is his grandson, and we did a picture of everybody that was shooting the match, or most people that were shooting the match that were there. I think it was on Saturday. Yeah, I think it was Saturday at lunchtime. I think he had 15, 16, or 17 guns that shot the match, so I thought that was super, super awesome. So there was quite a few guns on display, but there was even more guns shooting the match. So that was pretty cool. And a CWA Rimfire Pistol Open won it. Seth Fox took it, so that was awesome. I was excited for him. He's a great shooter.
Very cool, very cool. So when he sees me, he's probably going to be mad that I'm going to mention this. But I'm mentioning this so it never happens to anyone else again at a match. I got to. I got to.
Don't do it. I know where you're going.
So
can we leave the names?
Yeah, we'll protect the names. We'll protect the names to keep them innocent. But there was a shooter in the match, and he was shooting two guns the first session. He was shooting carry optics and rimfire pistol open.
I was standing right there when it happened too.
And when he was shooting outer limits, he decided to keep his carry optics gun in his holster while shooting rimfire pistol open. And his carry optics gun fell out.
It did. Right in the middle box.
So to all you shooters out there that shoot two guns a session, and Steve, you do it, I do it, many of us do it. If you're going to be running outer limits, bag your holstered weapon.
Yeah.
Just don't take the chance. There's more than enough time. There's always a table. Even if you walk up to the left or right box where you're going to start, based on whether you're a lefty or righty, and the RO says make ready, look at them and go, may I bag my holstered gun? And they're going to say yes. Bag the gun, run whatever other gun you're running, and when you're all done, say, I'm going to holster my holstered weapon, and they're going to go ahead and do that, and then you're fine.
Yeah, I think it's a good learning experience for all of us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's most egregious DQ that I've ever seen, but certainly not a good situation.
Oh no, there's definitely worse ways to go. I mean, as far as safety is concerned, clearly cranking one into the berm, over the berm, cranking one within 10 feet, breaking the 180. Those are all scarier ones for sure.
And I think the other reminder for people is that because this person was signed up for multiple sessions, he just happened to DQ, I think, on the 6th stage, and he shot 5 personal bests was rimfire pistol open prior to that, and all those scores are null and void.
Yep.
He's DQ'd for the whole match. So
yeah, the rest of the match.
Yep. So that was the unfortunate part. You never like to see that type of situation happen, but.
Well, it definitely was a big match. I mean, I'm just looking here on practice score. It looks like there were 366 entries in the match, which is a very good sized match. That rivals, a lot of the other bigger matches that get done. And for now, I think the second or third time, were both of Chris's under 60s at level 2 or higher matches? Or just the first one?
No, they both were. The rimfire rifle open gun was at the Alabama State match, and the rimfire rifle iron gun was at the Florida State match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for now, the third time at a level 2 or higher match, we have a time under 60.
Grant.
5850.
Yep. Rimfire rifle iron.
Iron, right. Iron. He was approximately let's see, do the math. Oh, I got to do math. He was a second slower. He was a second slower with a 60.05 in his rimfire rifle open.
2 seconds.
Was it 2 seconds? 5850 to 60.05.
Yeah.
Second and a half.
Oh, second and a half. I thought it was a 60-50. Yep. The interesting part, well, a couple things. One is that I didn't know he shot a sub 60 until I was well on my way home, and somebody called me and says, man, I can't believe Grant shot a 58 something. I'm like, no, he didn't. So yeah, rimfire rifle iron. I'm like, who does that? Him and Chris do, apparently. So I went through like, holy cow. The interesting part about what Grant did is he didn't really necessarily, in terms of fast shooting stages, he didn't blaze. I wouldn't say he didn't blaze any stage like out of the water. He just shot them all really well. Because I've seen Grant and Chris and others shoot individual stages faster than that.
Steve,
but boy, he was pretty consistent.
I'm going to bring you down to earth here, Steve, okay? Because your definition of blazing is maybe a little different than most other shooters, okay? I'm looking at his scores here, okay?
Well, he shot a 10-something on Outer Limits. And
okay, so he shot a 10-27. He shot a 10-27 on Outer Limits, okay? He shot a 5:45 on Smoke and Hope.
All right, I give him that one. That was fast.
He shot a 5:94 on Showdown.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
7:05 on Accelerator.
Yeah, okay.
And here's the one when I see him, I'm poking him in the eye. 7:14 on Pendulum.
Speed option. Oh, Pendulum.
No, Pendulum.
Yeah. He shot a 159 with his PCC open on speed option. A 159.
That's insane.
Video evidence. Oh no, he was rolling, son.
Yep. 8 seconds on speed option. 592 on roundabout. Just
man, that's
phenomenal.
Crazy. All right, so maybe they were pretty good. So yeah, so when you look at for PCCO and Rimfire Rifle Open, which are two of the biggest and fastest divisions in Steel Challenge, Grant, Chris, and I are the top 3 classified shooters. At least we were up until this week, I guess. But Grant took first, Chris took second in those 2 divisions, and I took third. So, when I kick stones and say, oh, man, I can't believe I came into third place. Well, you got the top 3 classified shooters in those 2 divisions. We're all at that same match, and it's the second time we've squared off this year. So that yeah, I'll take second or third place to either of those guys. They're both incredible young men, and they're exceptional shooters. So,
yeah, it's fun to watch them shoot. It's just fun to watch them shoot because you kind of watch them shoot, and you hear the time, especially when you run them. Like
right.
I've run both of them in matches, and you call out the time, and then you're like, oh man, I did get all 5 hits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, well, here's a little interesting little nugget. that, you know me, I'm always looking at the data and trying to find some interesting things. So same match, Area 5, looking at the categories. Okay, so we're talking about super senior, senior, lady, junior, preteen. I'm not sure if they had military, but what I found very interesting is the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The top 13, nope, sorry. The top 11 spots in ladies were owned by 3 shooters.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go down to 16, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, it only adds 1 more shooter.
Right.
That's crazy.
I think, go
they're
ahead.
fast. And they're fast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You've got Bridget Cunningham and Emily Cunningham.
Yep.
I mean, those 2 young ladies are exceptional. And if you look at their times and their different guns, like PCC Open, Rimfire Rifle Open, most of them, I think, they're within 2 seconds of one another. I mean, they're going to be shooting both of their guns, those 2 guns specifically, under 70 seconds consistently, I would say, by the end of the year.
Well, so Bridget's Rimfire Rifle Open was a 70-23, and her Rimfire Rifle Iron was a 71-34.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So that's barely over a second difference.
That's crazy.
You know, and let's see, Bridget on PCC, and then you go PCCI. PCCI was 75-96. PCCO was 76-08. That's less than a tenth of a second difference.
It's crazy. Probably one of the coolest things and proudest moments for me watching Bridget shoot, it was roundabout. I can't remember the exact time, but it was a 1.5 something, you know, because she's very methodical when she shoots. And, man, she had 4 good ones. She opened up that other one. It was like, dang, girl. And, yeah, Emily is so fast. What a lot of people don't understand, because Bridget has a tendency to finish a little bit better than Emily from time to time. So if you look at the last couple of major matches that they've shot, but if you look at the classifications, Emily is a faster shooter, a classified shooter. She just needs to pull it together just a little bit, and oh, God help us all. Yeah, they're fast, man.
Listen,
and,
let's just say that I'm happy being a senior male.
I can't get there quick enough, Jeff. Yeah, but then you had Bailey Gallagher.
That was the 4th one when you extend it out.
Blistering times. Caitlin Benton was shooting personal best left and right. There was a young lady, Camille, that was shooting out of Michigan. She came down and she was running her PCC. She was rocking it. Jay was there. I mean, it was crazy. It was great to see so many good youth shooters, let alone female shooters, across the board. It was pretty intimidating. But you and I talked about our, what we forecasted, what would take it. I think I was in the low 60, 61, 62. Of course, I was wrong. It was 58. And then the top, how many top finishes were under 70 seconds? I think I said 9 or 10, and I think there ended up being 12.
12? Yep.
12 times under 70 seconds. That's crazy. And there's a lot of people right on it too, you know?
Absolutely. Now, let's reiterate something there, because of those 12, Grant owned 3.
Sure.
Chris owned 4.
And that's probably the most impressive thing, though, is that Chris shot pretty well across multiple guns. To shoot 4 guns under 70 seconds, that's the most I've done is 3. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah, his 62, 55 for his rifle open. His PCC open was a 65-86. PCC iron was a 66-53. And his rimfire rifle iron was a 68-90.
Yeah.
Now think about that. Now, I mean, Chris at the Florida State, you pointed out, his rimfire rifle iron, he broke 60. Most everybody would be ecstatic to shoot a 68-90 in rimfire rifle iron.
Right.
And he lost by 10 seconds, over 10 seconds.
I mean, I won't tell him you said that either.
I'm sorry, Chris, if you're listening, okay? And you can poke me in the eye when you see me.
Oh, yeah.
No, but seriously, you're like, if I were to throw a 68-90, of course, again, I know the times, I know the shooters, I would be ecstatic, and it's like, oh, yeah, how'd you do? Well, I lost by over 10 seconds.
But, Jeff, it wasn't that long ago. There was only one person that I know of that shot a rimfire rifle gun under 70 seconds, and that was Colby. And then 2 years ago, I think it was Cole and I did it. But, I mean, you're talking a handful of people. But, boy, these guys are rocking it.
Yeah, I think it was the 18 – it was. I think it was the 8 – I'm pretty sure it was the 18 WSSC. KCU CBO shot rimfire pistol open, and he shot like a 60 and change.
Yeah.
You know, so he was close back then. And but yeah, I mean, they've just taken it to another level is really what it is. And it's putting in the time. You know, if anything,
sure.
You know, let's be very clear here, okay? And we joke about it all the time with Steve having his home range, and now Chris has a home range. Although it's not as home as Steve is, but he's got a range he can go to that's his that he can shoot at any time. And so does Grant. And it's one thing to have that, but it's another thing to use it. And so, like on an average week, not preparing for a match, but just on an average week, how many hours would you say you're out there practicing, Steve?
Whew. I would say that I shot 4 times this past week.
Okay.
One session was training, but, you know, you're talking at least a couple hours every time I get out there. So I'm probably close to that because I'm not into, you know, a 4, 5, 6 hour range session unless if I'm practicing for a major match, and that has to be on a weekend. But I'm going out there in, you know, my wife will probably tell you something different. But once I get out there, it's 2 hours before I've done anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm shooting. And now that Vanessa shooting when we went out last week, and we dropped 600 rounds, it's like, what the heck just happened? But, you know, with Grant, unless there's something changed since the last time I talked to him about this, the dude shooting at least 5 days a week, 500 rounds a session.
That's what I remember.
100,000 rounds a year.
Yep. Before
you start shooting any matches.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is shooting 3-4 times a week. When it comes up to a major match, he's doing the same thing I am, shooting 6-7 times a week leading up to the match. And, you know, we'll drop a couple thousand rounds in that week. But Grant has definitely put in the time. Chris Barrett's definitely put in the time. And, you know, if you've got these thoughts of, you know, shooting sub 60 and you're not putting in the time, well, you know, maybe you can get there. The Cunningham sisters, they're shooting a couple days a week. They're putting in the time. You know, and some of it's not just about putting in the time and shooting that well all the time. I mean, it's about life balance. And if you're doing this and you're having fun, then keep doing it, having fun, and then continue to get better for sure.
Well, again, I think it's like if you look at any athlete, you know, at the top of their game, they're not just going to the game, match, whatever they happen to be competing in, whatever it's called, and competing. They're putting in the time. Professional basketball players, hockey players,
sure.
Football players, the whole 9 yards. And I'm not saying that if you know, it's not about being a professional. It's about if you want to improve, you got to find the time to get the practice in. And, you know, I've been working with some juniors locally, and we weren't able to shoot through, March to June. Okay, so mid-March we stopped, so they missed all of April, all of May, half of June. They probably missed about 10 weeks of shooting. And I finally got them back out on the range and thought, okay, you guys haven't been shooting a while. We'll keep it, you know, we won't go smoke and hope easy, but we'll go roundabout. You know, I didn't want to throw them to the wolves and give them like pendulum right off the bat. They shot better at that practice than they did before we left.
Sure.
And I looked at their mom and dad and I said, what's going on? They said they've been dry firing every day.
Right.
10 minutes every day. They've been dry firing. So while I have never been a proponent of dry firing steel, it looks like it can help. Of course, I'm lucky. I don't have a home range, but I have access to a range, so I can go shoot live.
But I think some of it also is gun manipulation. I mean,
absolutely.
With Seth, he's maybe not necessarily dry firing, but he's picking up that gun every chance he can. And, you know, if it feels like it's a part of you and it's familiar, and you're just going to shoot it, flat out better. But congrats to Grant, Chris, and all the other winners. There was some blazing times that were shot. And it was a well-attended match. I know you mentioned the number of entries, but I'd have to double check, but it was at least 15 or 18 states were represented up at that match, which I thought was really, really cool.
Well, I'm just going down here quickly because it is listed here. Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Texas, Ohio, California, Pennsylvania, Alabama, New York.
Maryland.
Haven't seen a Maryland yet, but we're still scrolling. Yep, there's a Maryland. Caitlin Bettland from Ohio. Yep.
Michigan,
of course,
probably.
You know, it was going to be Alaska, but, you know, Jessica bailed at the last minute.
She bailed.
No, well, that's another, again, it's another a point to make about, you know, a match that can draw people from around the country. You know, let's face it, we've all been to matches that we've said, had fun, probably not going back. But this match, you know, especially, they may have actually had the benefit of COVID because everybody was itching to shoot, but I don't think that was the case. I bet you if we looked at last year's, the match was still pretty big.
Yeah, in talking with Steve Wright, he's a fantastic guy. I think they had 340 shooters, which was a record, and this broke their record at 300, whatever, finished 360 or somewhere in there. They actually had like 389 guns registered, but certainly a handful of people had to back out. So. Yeah,
that's going to happen, you know, at any level. You know, let's check something here. Let's just, while we're talking about matches and we're talking about what's coming up, let's go over here to the World Speed Shoot. Last time I looked, I think there were 5 slots available.
Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me last night and said that they signed up, but there's no place to squad.
It's
so
full.
I don't know if. Oh yeah, is it?
It is full. Yep. If you go to the registration page, it basically says it's full, and you can be put on a wait list.
Jeff, I want to run something by you. We haven't talked about this previously, but something that happened at the match and how I handled it. I want to kind of get your perspective because in no way am I dogging anybody that's a volunteer who are ROs. I've said this 1,000 times. Thank you for all that you do. This match had a lot more USPSA ROs than Steel Challenge ROs, and that's completely fine, and I'm very forgiving with range commands. I know you're a little bit more of a stickler for those, but I had a situation that I'd never encountered, and I was pretty pumped up because I knew that I was shooting against Chris and Grant and so on and so forth. And so let me run this by you and get some feedback from you, and I'll kind of go through the situation. Some of the ROs I knew just from social media. This person I didn't. Great guy, and I think they did what they felt was the best. And so here's what happened. I'm shooting 5 to go, and I don't have my string times in front of me, but I shot, let's say, a low 2, maybe 210, 215, somewhere in there, which I try to shoot that first one about 85%. The next one was maybe a 205, somewhere in there. The third one, because I knew, Chris and Grant, they're all over me. I can't get them off of me. So I was like, I'm going to push this one. I'm going to get right on that timer and smoke one. And so I'm making ready, start position, aim right center of the flag. And this is not a critique at all, so let me share this part of it, is the cadence for a lot of the ROs was a lot slower than what we're used to. Typically in Steel Challenge, you get a 1-2 second beep. So are you ready? Stand by, 1,000, 2,000. You'll get somewhere in that range. And this was at the outer end of that 3 to 4 second range, which, again, for me is not really a big deal because I always listen for the beep. I'm not one of those jumping, creeping kind of guys. And you know who you are. But so on the third one, because you do understand the cadence, and it was interesting watching this RO while they're running other folks. You could see him mouthing 1, 2, 3, and then beep. So it's kind of gave you an idea where he was at. And so I'm on my third string on 5 to go. I get the, are you ready? Stand by. And I went 1, 2, and I was waiting for the beep. I mean, Jeff, I'm telling you, I was on this like no other beep I've ever had. Beep. And so I'm in progress of shooting on the fourth play, hitting the stop plate. I hear stop, and at that point I'm on the stop plate. Total time was a 187. I'm like, man, is everything all right? He said, you jumped me. I said, you like physically jump you, or in terms of the timer? He's like, kind of laughing. He's like, the timer. I said, no, sir, I didn't jump you. Was I on it? Absolutely, I did not jump you. And he's like, no, I think you did. And I said, all right, well, you haven't shown me the timer. My first shot was between 0.41 and 0.43 seconds. If I'm above that, I didn't jump you. And he looked at it and looked at me like I was from a different planet. So my first shot was 0.42. And he's kind of like, that's crazy that you knew that. And I said, well, I know where I'm at. And I said, you know what, if that time was a 2.8 or 3, even up 3.5, just under 0.4, then I jumped you because, I shoot this stuff a lot. And I didn't say that to him, but that's what I was thinking. And he's like, and then you could see the doubt in his mind. I said, look, here's, I think, our options is if you're going to call me on a jump, that's fine. I just like to get the range master over here so we can kind of talk through this and make sure that I understand what we're talking about, or we reshoot or something like that. And he said, well, since you told me that first shot time is right where you're, he says, I believe you. But, so that was kind of tough. And so then what I did after that was I was thinking more about that than the other 2 strings and what happened on plate number 4. Of course, I missed, or string number 4 is I missed plate 4, had to make up, and then the 5th string, at that point, I admit I let that whole conversation get in my head and had a makeup. So I had to eat a string that had a makeup. So it probably cost me, based on where I normally shoot, probably half to 0.7 seconds. And I'll finish telling you the rest of the story, then I'll ask your opinion, because I'm not sure if I handled it right or not. Because I'm one of the most laid-back shooters you'll ever find. I'm not a contentious, hey, whatever you say goes. But if I'm right, I'll tell you that I'm right. And if you still, whatever, I'll back right down because I do this to have fun. Like I told my wife 4 or 5 years ago, when this stops being fun, I'm not going to shoot anymore. So we got into...
I'm telling her you're not having any more fun.
So on the last string, I told the RO, I said, look, that quick shot that I had on that first one. So if you look at my first shot on this one, is probably, which was a little bit more conservative because now it's in the back of my head. I said it's going to be between a 0.52 and a 0.55. And you look down and kind of looked like I was a soothsayer or something. He said it was a 0.53. And I said, that's right where I like to train at when I'm not pushing it. So something else interesting happened is Chris Templeton was there, and he said, Steve, what happened? I walked him through it. He says, hey, you want to see it? I said, what do you mean? He says, oh, no, man, I videoed all your strings. And I said, man, let's go to string number 3. So we played it, and sure enough, the beep goes off, then the muzzle rises. I mean, it was I wish I could do that every single string, but it was clear that I didn't jump. And so at the end of the session, I put my arm around the RO. I said, hey, we had that little situation on state or string number 3, just so you feel good about it and I can feel good about it. It's not who's right or who's wrong. I just want to make you feel good that you made the right decision. Played the video for him twice, and he said, man, that's impressive and unbelievable. I thought you jumped. And I said, well, I just want to make sure that walking away from this, you didn't have a bad taste in your mouth or, anything like that. And so that's how the situation was handled. And I think it went well. And I usually don't share stories like this, but I think it's important that, I'm open and honest and let everyone know, hey, sometimes this stuff happens. What do you think, based on everything that I told you, should I have done differently, or should I have done something else? What's your opinion,
I think
Jeff?
the way you handled it was very professional. You didn't jump down the guy's throat. You explained to him that you're one of the faster shooters. I used to do a training piece when I was shooting handguns, where you would hold the gun, get it prepped, you would be on target, and somebody would hit the timer, and you would shoot as soon as you heard the timer. So you're not even drawing. Right. You're just right there. So it's to gauge your reaction time to the timer.
Finger on the trigger and it's ready to rock and roll. Right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And for some of these timers, sometimes the echo delay is set up to like 0.11, 0.12. Sure. On occasion, you would get 0 on the timer, meaning I was faster than that. The reaction time was faster. Mm-hmm. So what happened, I think the situation in this is that even if this guy has been running shooters for a long time, you don't tend to see the top shooters. And one of the assets of the top shooter is the reaction time.
Right.
Okay. So to him, he thought it was gun. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's nothing in the rule book that talks about jumping the start signal, but there is a section 7, procedural penalties. The first thing that starts is creeping. And I'm going to read this to you. And I think this is important for everybody to understand. And this is also important for everybody. I think you should become an RO because you got to learn the rules. Because if you know the rules, you know how to present them if you're called on a rule infraction. So creeping, a competitor who is creeping, such as moving hands, for example, moving hands towards the firearm or physically moving to a more advantageous shooting position or posture at the start signal, shall receive a 3-second penalty, procedural penalty. If the competitor is moving prior to the start signal, he shall be stopped and restarted once and in the correct start position, once still and in the correct start position. In the event the RO cannot stop the competitor prior to the start signal, the competitor will incur a 3-second penalty. Now, the next section under that says, in the event that a competitor begins his attempt at the course of fire prematurely, false start, prior to the issuance of the start signal, the range officer will, as soon as possible, stop and restart the competitor once the course of fire has been restored. Attempt means the gun is drawn and or shots fired, but the timer has not been started. So, in effect, see, if it was me having not read that, I would have said, the RO said stop, he should have never stopped you, you get a reshoot. Because if you're going to say stop.
There's some unsafe condition going on, right?
Right. Or something happened. Yeah. Now, in this case, it does say you should, if the competitor is moving prior to the start signal, he shall be stopped and restarted once still and in the correct start position. And we've had that happen all the time. I've heard errant beeps from other bays.
Yeah.
And so you're down there, you're ready, and you hear a beep, and you go up and you hear, stop. What? I heard a beep. I've even taken a shot and heard stop and heard a beep. And it's an honest mistake. It's not somebody trying to game it, and you were never trying to game it. You were just on your game, and there's a big difference between that. So I think the way you handled it was very professional, and the fact that you do know what your draw times should be when you're very on.
Absolutely.
You know, this is actually why I believe you should always hear your times.
Agreed.
Okay. And here's my theory. I know a lot of people may disagree with this, but this is my theory. First of all, you should know what your average string time is. So again, like you know what your 85, your 95, your 100% string times are. So if I'm going up to, say, accelerator, and I'm saying, okay, I'm looking for a 2 1/4, and I crank out a 217, I'm going, don't change anything. Just keep shooting that. You hit your 100%. That is not today's 85%. You're doing great. Because a lot of times people think, I shoot a good string, now I got to get faster. Now I got to get faster. No, maybe you're just on a good day and you're just fast on the first string. But if you don't hear your time, you don't know. Second thing, and here's where I think it's the most important thing. And you mentioned the Cunninghams, and I may have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I'll mention it again. Florida State match, second string of speed option. I shoot a 1-for-1 string, and David Cunningham goes 185. I looked at him, I said, there's no way that was a 185.
Right.
I'm not a 185 shooter. I said, how many shots did you get? He looks down and he goes, oh, geez, I only got 3 shots. And I looked at him, I said, I'm going to reshoot that string. He says, okay.
Yeah, it could have been shot 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly.
But,
that's exactly what, again, you don't know where it was, but it was definitely not, shot 5 was definitely not picked up. So now here's the real reason, again, why I think. I shot a string, I believe it was maybe, it might have been 5 to go. And I shot it 1-for-1. And the RO didn't call the time right away. And he calls out 360. And I looked at him, I went, there's no way that was a 360. I said, you picked up something.
Right.
I said, I bet you there's at least a second or more difference between the 5th shot and the 6th shot, because I only shot 5 times. So he looks at the timer and he goes, well, there's 6 shots. And he looked at the split, and sure enough, there was over a second differential. So it picked up something. It picked up a bolt dropping, an errant echo from another bay, whatever. If I had not heard that, if it was just, I'm going to spin this back to the person recording the time, or the person recording the time is just going to hit the button because we use the AMG Labs timers, I wouldn't have known that. I couldn't have, because now you go back and you go, wait a minute, there's no way I shot a 360 on that string. That string's over. It's done. It's in the book.
Yep.
You got to, so this is why I'm a big proponent for wanting to hear my times.
It would be nice because I think that the sport is starting to get up against, human potential when it comes to ROing and scoring and all that kind of stuff. And, we're not as big to have, like lines like they do in tennis, and where the ball hits the line or it doesn't. But when I'm ROing, Grant or Chris, or, I'm standing right behind them, I can see exactly where they're either hitting or missing. And I'm a seasoned shooter. There's a lot of folks out there that are, maybe D class shooters that are ROing, which I'm thankful for, but there's no way that a lot of these people are keeping up with the hits of some of these faster folks out there. And so I think that's going to become a problem at some point. And then I think the timer issue is another. Same match, not their fault. Two folks that were ROing speed option. And again, I knew I had my back against the corner, or in the corner there. I was shooting, I think it was PCC Open. I'd have to look back at my times to make sure. But I shot, you know, maybe like a 220, 230, then 210, and then I had 2 sub-2s. And then my last one was just as fast as string number 3 and 4, and they called it a 245. And so I said, you know, would you mind looking at the shots? Because I think you picked up an extra shot, or in that case, a piece of brass may have hit it.
Mm-hmm.
And he started fumbling around with buttons. I said, hang on, I'll show you which one. And you know what he did? It was one of those old blue timers. He hit the go button, so it raced all the time.
Oh.
But, you know, at that point in time, did I know that, you know, I probably lost 0.4 seconds there? Yeah, more than likely, because, you know, again, you know how fast you shoot and what cadence and all that kind of stuff. There was no way. The only place that I could have lost 0.4 seconds was a first shot, and I'm not losing 0.4 seconds on that first shot. But the rest of the transitions were just as fast, maybe even slightly faster. But, you know, I mean, to me, that's part of it. But at some point, you know, maybe there needs to be a technology enhancement. Maybe we go to all AMG lab timers at major matches, and maybe there's a scoreboard or something like that so everybody can see the splits and, you know, that type of thing. Because that's happened to me a handful of times in the last 12 months.
Well, I think to me, being an RO, and I take pride in trying to be the best RO I can be out there, and what that means is making the right call.
Right.
Okay? It's not about being right the first time. It's about making the right call.
Sure,
so
sure.
If I call a time with a miss, and the competitor looks at me and I said, you missed plate 4, and the competitor says, I'd like to go look at it, great. Unload and show clear. Let's go look at it. And if there's an edger, I am happy to take away the miss because that's the right call.
Right.
You know, I have a tendency when I RO, I don't try to track and watch the hits on the plates. Okay. I usually have a discussion with the person who runs the pad. If I'm on the timer, a person with the pad, and I say, I need you to watch hits.
Right.
Because as the competitor's getting ready, of course, I'm focused on the gun. Now,
Sure.
The good news is, except for outer limits, you don't have to look at the gun after that. So a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm more concerned with making sure I'm picking up all the hits. Speed option is a classic one. If you get somebody who transitions fast off of plates 1 and 2, and you don't get the gun out there, or the timer out there, and it's a quiet gun, you may not pick up the 5th shot.
Right.
You know, because think about it. If they're shooting at 4-3, 2-1 stop, they've got you pushed far right. And then they're going to swing to far left. If you're not paying attention and getting that out there and watching that timer to know you got the 5th shot, you may only get 3 of the shots, but as long as you got the 5th shot.
Right, right.
And so I tend to be, as an RO, right or wrong, could get chastised for it. Somebody tell me I'm doing it wrong. I tend to have the second RO looking for hits. I'm watching the timer and I'm listening. Okay? And if I don't hear a hit, then I'm going to look to my second and go, or look down to the plate and go, okay, I didn't hear it. But I'm really concerned. And of course, you can also get into that position where you can see the timer, you can see the plates, and you can see the gun. You may not have any one focus on anything, but you can see them all.
Right.
And that's kind of the best place to be in, because you don't really need to watch the timer. You'd have to know what it changes to. If you can just see it change, you know it's good enough. And of course, the nice thing about the AMGs too is right on the face, it tells you how many hits it recorded.
Right, right, right.
You know, so you can sit there and go, if I didn't see it change on the last shot, but I've got 5 shots, you can kind of make an assumption you got all 5.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays into as we continue to move forward and times get faster and faster and faster. And again, my intent on bringing this scenario up is not to knock any RO whatsoever. because I am thankful that people are taking their time. Most of them volunteer with little to no compensation. Sometimes they get thrown a free gun, but to shoot a match free gun or entry is probably a better way to say it. But there are different situations that happen from time to time, and I think it's good to talk about them, to be aware of them and how we handle them and those types of things. In the situation that I gave, they would have said, hey, you know what? I understand what you're saying. You told me your first time. Let's do a reshoot. I would have been okay with that. It is tough as a competitor to get that out of your head and all that kind of stuff, but that's on me, not on them. So, yeah, it was overall, Area 5 was a great match. One of the best matches in terms of talent. I mean, it was very, very, very competitive. Probably one of the most competitive matches that I've shot. Well, I should say shot in a while. Besides Georgia, that was 3 years ago. That was the last one we shot. But
well, we got more matches coming up, Steve. 3 weeks. You're going to be down here in my home state of Florida. And,
there's a match in Florida coming up. I didn't know that.
West Florida Steel, baby.
All right,
6 stages. We're shooting the Speed 6. I've put my request in for no rain, so hopefully that'll be accepted.
2 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was. I've still got the pictures.
My shoes still haven't dried out from that match.
Yeah. What was worse? What was worse? The WAC 2 years ago or Georgia last year?
That's down in Waverly Hall. So the Georgia match by far.
Yeah.
It was probably the same amount of rain, but one word, it's called drainage. Oh my goodness, that was. Yeah, I think I was shooting accelerator when somebody took that picture of my feet up to my ankles. Up to my ankles.
Oh.
That was good times. Yeah. But anyway, I'll reach out to you because Vanessa wants to shoot in a couple of weeks as well. So she shot. Oh, I didn't mention that. How could I get this far? The best part of the match of Area 5 was Vanessa shot her first ever Steel Challenge match.
All right, Vanessa, way to go.
Yeah, she came up. She's like, Daddy, I want to shoot. I'm like, shoot what? She's like, I want to shoot the match. I'm like, honey, we're at a level 3 match. Let me break this down to you. Local matches, Griffin. State matches, the state. And this is the day. She's like, yeah, Daddy, what I want to shoot. All right, let's. Yeah, Steve Wright took my money too, so she shot and she did great. She did great.
You know what? I'm looking at this and I mean this with the utmost support. She was not last.
Oh yeah, for sure. She's a C class rimfire pistol open, baby.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations, Vanessa. That's fantastic. Cool. Yeah, it's great. And I picked up a new student, and his mom is also shooting, and it's great seeing them both out there shooting the guns, and that they're able to share the experience, which is very cool. Of course, now your rimfire ammo expenses have just gone up a little more.
Oh yeah, I got to place an order tonight when I get home. It's crazy.
You going to bring her to Florida?
Heck yeah.
We will find a place for her.
Sounds good.
Saturday morning is booked, but I happen to know that there's spots open on Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning, and we will get her in the match.
Sounds good, Jeff.
All right.
I look forward to it. All right, man.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hope everybody's safe and having fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you, Jeff.
Bye-bye.